So I was catching up with an old friend recently, a brilliant researcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he spent the last decade trying to get a medical AI startup off the ground out in California. And he just looked exhausted.
Not the good kind of tired, I'm guessing.
No, not at all. It was this, deep, soul-crushing fatigue. He said he'd spent the last 2 years trapped in what he called a paperwork purgatory.
Paperwork purgatory. That sounds about right.
He had to navigate 3 different hospital boards, 4 insurance legal teams, just to get one clinical validation study started.
A revolving door of people who can only say no.
Exactly. He called it the death of 1,000 signatures. But then his whole tone changed. He pulled up these photos from a recent trip to Zhejiang.
Okay.
And he's showing me this massive, sprawling complex, the new National AI Medical Pilot Testing Base.
Yeah.
And he points to this diagram, this 1 + 5 + 6 + n framework.
Yeah.
He just whispered, "Do you see this?" He said, "In the time it took me to get one meeting with a compliance officer in Boston, they built the entire physical infrastructure to bypass every bottleneck I'm facing."
Wow. That's a powerful comparison.
It wasn't just envy. It was sheer disbelief. He called the place a factory for certainty.
A factory for certainty. I like that. Because here, innovation is just a speculative bet.
Totally. It can be vetoed at any moment. But over there, he saw something, I don't know, almost alien to how we think now. A system that's just designed for velocity.
And that's the comment that stuck with you.
Yeah. He said, in the West, we've become geniuses at financializing ideas.
Yeah.
We trade the paperwork of innovation until everyone's rich on paper. But these guys, they're building the flesh of modernity. They're turning state capacity into a physical moat.
And that chilling realization is really what we're digging into today.
It is. The gap isn't about who has the smartest programmers anymore. It's about who has the raw institutional will to actually build things.
Yeah. Right. And as our sources argue, while we're tangled up in this vetocracy that prizes procedure over progress, a new kind of civilizational supremacy is being constructed brick by brick.
That is a powerful framing from your friend, and I think you've just nailed the central conflict.
Well, our deep dive today is all about these sources that argue this is a contest of system design. It's fragmentation versus coherence.
Okay, so let's unpack this with that tangible example. The Zhejiang National AI Medical Pilot Testing Base. It officially opened in December 2025.
Right.
And it's not just a building. It's this specific structural framework, 1 + 5 + 6 + n. It sounds super technical, but what are they actually building? What does it do?
It's a brilliant piece of bureaucratic engineering, really.
Oh.
The framework is the blueprint that removes all that friction your friend was talking about.
Okay, so break it down for us.
So the 1 is the base itself, the headquarters. The 5 refers to 5 major public tech platforms. This is your centralized computing power, standardized data, all of that.
Shared resources.
Exactly. Then the 6 is the 6 clinical validation centers. The hospitals where the AI actually gets tested on real-world data, and N is just all the industry applications that flow from it.
So the infrastructure to invent the AI is physically and administratively linked to the infrastructure that tests it and then regulates and deploys it.
All in one coherent system. It's the total opposite of fragmentation.
And what does that say about their philosophy of governance?
The sources call it a technocratic meritocracy. It's all about administrative excellence. The goal is political efficiency and, genuinely good governance, not procedural self-congratulations.
Which means they can implement a national strategy that lasts 5, 10, even 20 years.
Without being derailed by the next election cycle. That long-term planning is a luxury way. Western democracies, with their short-term focus, can barely afford. This approach is just. It's designed for pure velocity.
So if that's the system for velocity, then let's define the opposite. What's stalled, my friend? The sources call it vetocracy.
Vetocracy. It's a perfect word for it. It describes the structural paralysis in systems like the U.S.
The paralysis from having too many veto points.
Precisely. Any single group, a lobbying firm, a small legal team, a partisan committee, has the power to stop a project in its tracks.
But almost no one has the power to push it forward. We see it everywhere.
It's the essence of the problem. You get partisan opposition, corporate lobbying protecting the status quo, endless judicial challenges, and the regulatory fragmentation your friend ran into.
It makes a similar hub in the U.S. seem, well, basically impossible to imagine.
You'd have private interests fighting over data, ideological gridlock, policy reversals every 2 years. It would die before the concrete was even poured.
And the sources say this isn't just political, it's cultural too.
Yeah, they point to East Asian systems, some drawing on Confucian traditions, engineered for collective purpose and administrative excellence. This creates what they call policy endurance.
The strategy is robust enough to survive political changes.
But I have to push back a bit here, because the immediate concern in the West would be about safety, right? If you link the regulator and the R&D arm, where are the checks and balances?
That is the critical question. Who guarantees the AI is safe if the state is just demanding speed?
And the sources argue that the coherence is what enforces safety through standardization. By controlling the entire chain, from the training data to the validation centers, they can implement rigorous, standardized stress tests.
So they replace decentralized bureaucratic checks.
With centralized technical rigor, it's a different trade-off.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift to the financial side of this, to the valley of death between research and deployment. The sources argue it's deepened by financialization.
It is. Financialization is the pathology. It's the decoupling of innovation from the real economy.
So AI just becomes another speculative asset on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. The goal isn't clinical outcomes anymore. It's maximizing financial returns, patent litigation, and getting the next round of speculative investment.
And the expensive, difficult work of proving an AI tool actually saves lives gets cut because it just kills the balance sheet for investors looking for a quick exit.
And that's the pathology. Now, contrast that with the East's focus on an engineering culture. They obsess over the crucial, expensive pilot testing phase. They call it zongxi.
And that's the phase that kills most Western AI ventures.
It's the ultimate killer. This is where that physical moat idea comes to life. Let's talk about the Dr. Chen anecdote.
Right. This really illustrates the difference between selling an idea and building a product.
So Dr. Chen has this amazing lung cancer detection AI, but his startup is dying. He's trapped.
Why?
Private hospitals won't share the data he needs for validation without huge fees, and the cost of meeting regulatory standards alone is prohibitive. So he's being pressured to just sell his patents to a huge conglomerate.
Who would probably just sit on the tag as a defensive asset.
Of course. His failure wasn't technical, it was completely systemic.
But the Zhejiang base gave him another way out.
It acted as a state-backed moat. They provided the standardized clinical data sets, the computing power, everything he needed for stress testing. It validated his tool for the real economy.
And shielded him from those short-term financial whims.
That's the core message the sources hammer home. Infrastructure is national will. The physical capacity to test and deploy is worth more than $1 billion traded on paper.
Which brings this whole thing down from macro governance to actual human benefit. What does this velocity look like on the ground?
You see it in the sheer speed of execution. Take the example of Director Lin. He is a coordinator within the framework who basically runs a permanent war cabinet of experts.
Ready to solve problems, not litigate them.
Exactly. So a conflict comes up between a top hospital's strict data privacy rules and a startup that needs training data.
That's the classic standoff, the kind of thing that kills projects for years in a fragmented system.
Right. But instead of letting it die, Director Lin mandates a 48-hour sprint. He physically puts the legal teams, data scientists, and hospital admins in a room together and tells them to engineer a solution.
So they're forced to create a result, not an excuse.
Precisely. As one source put it, state capacity demanded a result. Within that system, efficiency is treated as a moral imperative.
And that connects all the way down to the individual, to that anecdote about the rural doctor. This is where the flesh of modernity really lands.
Absolutely. Think about a doctor in a remote clinic. Historically, they had zero access to specialized diagnostic tools.
But now, through this hub, they can access this vetted, high-capacity diagnostic brain.
Right. Before, diagnosing a rare lung condition meant a long, expensive trip to a city specialist. Now that expertise is delivered instantly. The civilizational shift reaches the village.
It also reframes the whole idea of freedom, doesn't it? The doctor doesn't have the freedom to choose from 10 broken, unreliable systems.
No, they are given the freedom provided by order. A single, highly vetted, functioning system that delivers world-class care. It's an assurance of competence.
And that's the ultimate proof of the system's capacity. The sources argue the West's decline psychology, our crumbling infrastructure, our slow agencies, is a failure of vision.
It's a failure of will. History isn't being rewritten in debates. It's being rewritten in these high-velocity testing facilities. The power shift is happening in the capacity to turn knowledge into human benefit.
Which brings us back to that stark choice the sources present. The global contest is between vetocracy and velocity.
And by choosing to build, brick by brick, The East is demonstrating that meritocratic governance can produce outcomes that our current fragmented systems are struggling to match.
The rise of the Zhejiang base suggests that perhaps the ultimate definition of true freedom is the assurance that public institutions will function with competence and foresight to deliver safe, technologically advanced health outcomes, prioritizing order as the prerequisite for innovation over political theater.